Oxford student and serial entrepreneur Chase Koch. So you've got quite a few programs on initiatives on the boil right now, and I understand you've taken a year out. Is that to focus on your startups, or is that just unrelated?
I mean, I took the year out primarily just because with COVID and stuff going on, I thought it'd be kind of a weird year. So I thought like I'm in no rush. Like if I was in the US, I'd be doing a 4-year degree anyway. So thought like, why not just take a year out? And I'm like doing lots of different projects. So it just kind of worked out well. Like you describe me as a serial entrepreneur. I don't know if I would call myself that, but that's a good praise. I do OxPath. I run OxPath. I also run OxMatch. I also run Ox tickets, and I run a couple other projects that we're like kind of working on right now. Anything with an Ox, I guess, is me. It's all about that
trademark the prefix.
Exactly. It's just like it's an easy thing to roll with. So it's just like you ever just get an idea and then add Ox in front of it, and it's probably a thing to do.
Yeah. So are you finding that is that kind of what you're focusing all your time on? Are you just kind of managing your fingers in all the different pies? Is it very kind of a business or initiative heavy year at the moment for you?
Yeah, it's an initiative heavy year. Like I've obviously like had some internships and done that kind of stuff and like worked on other things. But like outside of that, like all my attention has been on all these different projects. And it's like it takes a lot of work. It's like at the time you're always like, oh, like why not do another one? Or like, it's so much fun, do another one. But then there's so much like kind of admin work you have to do and just unexpected things. Yeah. What I've learned throughout the year and just throughout my time doing these things is you always set like internal deadlines, right? You have like a team and you say, okay, we're going to try and get this part done by then. And then you tell other people, okay, well, this is going to be done by then. So then we can do that thing. Okay, well, nothing ever works out that way. So everything just like, it's always just like a case of like it's just like a controlled demolition, honestly. It's like things go wrong and it's just most of the time is, trying to contain it. But like things are going good. And like I'm really pleased with how things are.
So you obviously you're on a year out, but most of the things that you do, you're kind of working on them with other students who aren't on a year out. Do you find it difficult because obviously they're doing degree things on top of the stuff that they're doing with you, whereas you've got more time to commit to it?
Yeah. No, definitely is difficult. But to be honest, it's not really that much of an issue. Like the stuff that I do is a lot more of the kind of admin kind of side of things. And that's like means that other people don't necessarily have to do that. So the things that other people do are kind of more targeted things, or I guess it is more manageable. But it definitely is difficult because it's like I have a lot more time to devote to things. Like if I just the other day I had a whole kind of day of like Zoom calls lined up with things. And if I was doing my degree, I would have never had the time to do that. I would never have the time to breathe, let alone do that. So it's like basically things that take a lot of time, I'm the one that handles it. And the annoying thing is I kind of get a warped sense of time because obviously I have much more time. So it's kind of like it's easy to say to other people, oh, like you should do this and that. And then you also realize, oh yeah, they also have a degree. But like, it's not really that much of an issue. Like with all these things, you have a fairly large team, so things get divided pretty well. And, it sounds like I'd have a lot of time on my hand, but like, honestly, it doesn't feel like it. Like I'm always kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, like there's not enough time. But that's just really the byproduct of doing lots of different things. And there's always like, as I said, they all kind of sound the same. So I kind of have like these like things where I'll get an email and I just like, I'm just so confused with what it's referring to. And then it's just like, there's a lot of like, it's a lot of admin, it's a lot of organized, and it's just like kind of unorganized chaos, but all kind of works.
So what's the motivation behind doing all these projects then? Like, are they just a hobby for you, all these startups?
Yeah, so I think it's just like, so the way I think is Oxford's such an incredible place, and there's so much kind of like great energy and people doing lots of things. I think there's kind of this whole side where it's like, wanting to get involved in things like climb up ladders, but there's also this other side of like, hey, let's start something new. And, it's kind of fun to start something new and like have to go do all the groundwork. I mean, it is really like annoying, to be honest, because you have to like create a culture, create a team out of nothing. But it's really rewarding to like have one project and just see it like take shape. And what's really, really rewarding is when you put in all this work for something and then you can like step back and go work on something else. But then you see that project like doing stuff on its own because you have a team. It's like kind of like running autonomously. So to me, it's just like it's a rewarding experience, and I find it's like a great education too. So I study history and politics, and that's not a very vocational degree. I basically read about dead people and also read about dead ideas. So it's like kind of a lot of I feel like what I've learned most at Oxford is probably more to do with the stuff that I've like made and like kind of helped got involved with. Because you learn a lot about like people and how to manage people, how to manage things, how to deal with crises, um, how to have a high blood pressure, just like all these things. Because it's like, everything does go wrong, and so you have to like kind of take care of that. And then also just like you kind of get thrust in having to do everything. So I think if you get involved in like a society, right, and like a committee, you oftentimes get like just a position and like a clear sense of responsibilities. But even like a startup or like something new, like essentially everybody kind of has to do everything. So you kind of like just get thrown in the deep end and kind of, have to kind of learn about everything. Like, there's not like a dedicated person that does the graphics, a dedicated person that does like the accounting and all that stuff. You just kind of have to like figure out how to do it all, and hope that you can do it all convincingly.
Yeah. So it's interesting then that you sort of once you had an initiative and then you started another one and then you started another one. Is it do you like to have kind of lots of things going on? Is that why you chose to like do loads rather than just kind of focus on one?
I think so. And also like on a very kind of like simple level, I think, you always have to assume that things are going to fail. So doing a lot of kind of different things is kind of like, minimizing risk. Because like, you never know if people actually like the idea. You never know, like, if people actually use it in a certain way. So why would I like want to like just double down all on one thing, and then it could be going well, but then like a month from now, like gets to a dead end. So you do all these different things, and then like something's not working, you can kind of just like cut it off, and then still say to yourself, well, I still have done these other things. So I'm pretty pleased about that.
So do you see
And also
yourself?
I'll add that, and I'll add with that like a lot of them kind of have natural synergies. So it may sound kind of silly that it's like you start one and then you kind of think, well, like life would have been a whole lot easier if we had X. So like with OxPath, it was like life would be a whole lot easier if we had a natural way to like communicate with people, or like had a bigger base of people to reach out to. So then you think, well, okay, we need a mailing list, or we need like a platform to connect people. So then you come up with other ideas. So it sounds like because a lot of these things are kind of separate, but they all kind of interlock together. And also the thing is, it's like when you do this stuff, you like work really closely with people, much more closely, I think, than you would like in a society, because as I said, you're all kind of doing the same thing. So then it just becomes really easy to say like, oh, like let's go and do this other project. Kind of taking what we learned from what we just did.
Yeah. So do you see yourself carrying on with these once you've left uni, permanently? Do you want to pass the mantle on, or are they just going to kind of fall away once you've left?
Fizzle out. I hope they don't fizzle out. It really just depends like on the nature of them. So some of them are more like business oriented. So that is something that like if they were like successful or like got going more, I would want to like continue on and work with that. But otherwise, like I'd probably I don't know, I wouldn't want it to fizzle away, but like I would be happy to like pass it on to other people. The main one that I'm most proud of probably is OxPath, the access project that I work on. And that one we have like very big aims for. Like so in Oxford we started we kind of had the idea back in June, but we really launched in September. And from then to now, we've signed up over 400 mentors from every subject, every college. And we're doing like about 5 to 10 sessions a day, give or take, with students. And that's like very minimal marking on our side. Like, I don't know how they find us really. But like with that, like we originally thought about just keeping it as like an Oxford Access thing. But because of like how well it's been doing, we're like thinking about expanding it to other universities and like doing more like A-level kind of help. So that's like has the potential to like, I think, scale beyond Oxford. And that's the thing that I'm really interested in. So that's definitely a thing that like, were it to get going, I'd want to like keep on working with it.
Okay, so could you see yourself then after you finish uni, if you're really enjoying one of the projects that you're working on, pursuing that, full time, not as an Oxford student, but as someone who's
I think it depends on like it depends on like the scale, of course. Like I don't think that like I want to be like 30 or running a Oxford like matchmaking thing. Like that'd be a bit strange. But You know, if they got to the point where it's like they were doing things beyond Oxford, then like I'd definitely be interested in continuing doing them. But yeah.
Okay. So with your projects in general, I guess not just specifically OxPath, are they something that you plan or you want to turn a profit from at any point, or is it just kind of it's just for fun?
I think like some of them are more naturally inclined to generating profit than others. With the Access one, that truly is just an access program. That so with Oxmatch, right? So I'll just like talk about that really briefly. So essentially, we had an idea. My co-founder and I had this idea for a dating app focused on kind of focusing on in-person meeting at places you like. So essentially, you sign up, select places and events that you like, want to go to, etc., and then you get shown people that also like those same things. So we kind of had that idea, and obviously that's like a for-profit thing. Like we were in talks to, like local businesses where they could like provide discounts and vouchers, etc., and we'd be able to like say like, hey, you like this pub, like they're giving you a 15% discount. Why don't you take your match there? So we kind of had that in development, and we like developed it, and that the OxMatch survey kind of sprung out of that because we needed like obviously a way to do some kind of initial marketing, and really we needed a way to like do some kind of market research. So we built this whole survey, matchmaking survey, basically just for market research purposes, really. So like I remember we put all the market research questions in the end because we figured that if someone just opened it up and saw like these questions, they'd like click away. So you put all the market research ones in the end. So you have to like go spend 20 minutes of your life answering this stuff. But people really enjoyed it, and we got like thousands of people sign up for it. So that kind of became its own thing because we thought, hey, we should do this again. And it's great because it's like initial marketing. We get market research, and we know, hey, these are people that are interested in using our product when we eventually launch it. So throughout the summer, we've been working on that app, and we kind of put it on the side just because like we're obviously in a pandemic, and I don't think it would be great to release a app focused on encouraging people to meet at places in the midst of a pandemic. And now, of course, we couldn't do it because all the businesses are closed. That's like kind of a next year project. But in the interim, we keep running the surveys because people enjoy them. And also just because like we get a mailing list of people interested in that stuff. So that when we want to launch that app, we know who to target. That's definitely a thing that we do envision as like a profit making thing. Like that totally is just a business essentially. With OxPath, that's obviously an access one, but interesting enough, like through the process of making it, we kind of ended up making like something kind of proprietary with our like scheduling system. So like to support our kind of access stuff and all the other stuff we do, we were kind of contemplating like reaching out to like recruiting companies and saying like, oh, hey, we have this like neat little platform system thing where like people can like schedule a call and like get instantly connected. So you guys might like it for like recruiting. So that's kind of like a path. Although with OxPath, we're not like too interested in profit really. But we have like avenues if we needed to raise more money for it. And then a couple other projects I'm working on, like those are definitely more like profit aligned and focuses businesses. But yeah, it's just like a broad spectrum of things.
Okay, so an interesting thing with sort of having this many projects going on is that a lot of like startup things tend to require a bit of capital investment, which is prohibitive to a lot of students. How is that an obstacle for you, or how do you get around that?
Yeah, so it definitely is an obstacle, and that's like the big issue all the time with doing projects. But the thing with that is, it's like, you know, it doesn't like cost can be a barrier for these things, but if you know the right people and have the right team that have like all the subsequent skills, you can really cut down on costs. So a lot of our projects are very, very like cost effective and not expensive at all. So we don't really bump into that issue, just because we kind of do a lot of the things by scratch ourselves. It obviously takes a lot more time, but it means that we don't have to spend on like a ton of different things. So our costs pretty much are just like hosting websites, which is very cheap if you have the right providers and that sort of thing. And then also like with OxPath, like it's self-sufficient because we have like funding from colleges and like anticipating getting support from like the Foundry, and like we're looking at like doing sponsorship and things. With OxMatch, we actually get approached sometimes about like selling our souls, basically, to put it nicely, about like, hey, you guys have a mailing list, like we'll pay you to like do this. But the good thing is because we do things very cheaply and cost effective, that's not very convincing to us. Like we don't need to like, you know, sell out everything, because we just don't have that need in the first place because we've done things very cost effective.
Okay. So, I just want to touch on that, what you said just before then. So for students who are interested in starting businesses, interested in emulating or rivaling you, is that a good way of getting money if it's necessary? Is it so will colleges give money for that kind of thing? And the Oxford Foundry, is that how would they go about that?
Yeah. So with colleges, I'd say I don't think JCRs would give you money if you just say, hey, can you all support my like entrepreneurial ambitions? That'd be a really interesting motion, and I'd love to like see the reaction when someone like tries to defend that. But like if you do projects that I think have some kind of social good, and I think all of our projects really do kind of do that social good, I think it is easy to get that kind of funding because, okay, to be really blunt, I've seen colleges give out money for like newspapers and yeah, and like just like little newspapers like music journals and things. It's very easy to like get money for projects. And so I think if you can like say, hey, I'm doing this thing that will help some people, make people's lives easier, or just be a fun thing to do, I think it's pretty good to get that money. So I think JCRs definitely are a platform for that. Foundry, they have lots of like competitions all the time. OX1 Incubator has like idea competition. So you don't even need a project really, you just use your idea. And you can get funding for that. So there's lots of like competitions, even outside of Oxford, so like kind of the gold standard with startups is Y Combinator. And they have like every year they do like 2 kind of competitions really, but like I think it has a 1% acceptance rate. So like obviously don't bank on it. But like you apply and you get money, etc. But there's all sorts of things like that to get funding. We haven't used any of those, like applied for those really, but like there's tons of avenues to get revenue, like to get investment.
Yeah, I know.
Also, just like the other thing is like LinkedIn is so useful. Just like type in like on LinkedIn like early stage investor or like sponsorship, and then it's like try and just message all the people there, and then who knows, like you might find someone that's interested. So like actually earlier today I was on a call with someone that I connected with on LinkedIn that's at like some education company about like sponsoring our OxPath thing for when we go to other universities. So it's really just about like finding opportunity, which is like it's so annoying because it just basically sounds like needle in a haystack kind of thing. But really, like as long as you have the perseverance and there's all these different avenues, like just like kind of go chase them all up, and you're probably going to get something.
So has it been difficult this year then trying to get any kind of sort of funding or investment or sponsorship of any kind, because obviously like, the business world is not in a great place?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like with the OxMatch dating app, for example, that was very much dependent on businesses signing up and integrating their service with ours, because really like we kind of made it for both the consumer end but also the business end. The consumer end being that like we know people like dating apps and they want to meet in person with their matches. So why not base that off of places you both like? But on the business end, it's really like, people have to have first dates somewhere. So why not have that first date at your business? So like to be super blunt with it, it's like we can kind of build a pipeline to like send people to your business. That's really attractive to them, obviously. But if they're all like struggling to begin with, they're not going to be interested in giving out discounts or vouchers, even if that might encourage people to show up. And of course now with lockdown, it's basically moot. So we've just had to kind of like put that on the shelf and like wait for a better day. But even just like with sponsorship and investment, like obviously that's dried up because at this point all the businesses are just like really like struggling essentially. And even like, when I talk about like investment, I'm not talking about like a lot of money. I'm talking about like, hundreds of pounds or like in the low thousands, not like anything huge. But even that is like very hard to get now. So like I think if you were starting a project now, like using your college network is probably like the easiest path to go.
Okay. So I just want to talk to you a bit about OxPath specifically. So the whole purpose of OxPath is access, right? It's an access organization. Now there are quite a few different like access organizations in Oxford already. So all the colleges will have their own one, and lots of students are setting up before. What was the thinking behind setting up your own rather than just joining one of the existing ones?
Yeah, so there's a lot of access programs already, and they all do a great job. I think our point really was to just provide a service that didn't already exist. So this actually came out after we were doing the OxMatch survey. And with the OxMatch survey, the backend we built for that, we kind of like looked at it and was like, hey, like, wouldn't it be cool if we like applied this, but for like something that actually is a problem, like access. And so we had this idea about kind of like pairing up like students with mentors. Obviously that's already been done. That's what most access things do. But we thought like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if like you could get paired up whenever you need it on demand? And we're actually the first to do that. So we're the only access program where you can go on our website, oxpath.co.uk, and you select what's like, you basically select what you need help with. So like be it interviews, general advice, admissions tests. Then after that, you select what subject, and then you just select like a day and then 3 times. That then gets posted to our mentors, and any mentor can like take the session. So if you wanted, you know, help the next day, you could get it. You can use it as many times as you like. And so that makes it very flexible for the students, because all the other access programs, they essentially, you, from the student's perspective, you sign up, you apply, and then they close, and then they match you up with a mentor, and then you do like 1 session a week or 1 session a month kind of thing. Naturally that like, you know, has a limited supply. So we kind of really want to solve the supply problem and ensure that, you know, somebody could, the day before their admission, yeah, like 2 days before their admissions test, could stumble on our site and get help. I think really like the main issue we see with access is this kind of information gap issue. So we of course want to like people that go to schools that have had a history of sending people to Oxford, kind of, you know, they have a network of friends that they can be like, oh, hey, like I did admissions test coming up, like do you have any advice for that? Well, for like someone that goes to school that doesn't have that background, like, you know, there's a lot of myths on the internet about admissions tests or interviews, etc. It's really off-putting because there's not that much information. So you just really want to create a simple platform where someone could just like, you know, have an informal chat with someone that's gone through it all and kind of dispel those myths. And what we see from like our sessions is they're not like complicated questions. Most people, they ask simple things like, you know, like, is this a trick question? Or like, how should I write this essay? Just very simple things that like I think a lot of us would take for granted. And so we definitely do see that there's like a unique need for this, because we're not aiming to like, you know, walk someone through the process and guarantee they get into Oxford. All of the other access programs have much more like in-depth resources and do in-depth help. We just really want to be that kind of first line to be the really the help desk really, so that someone can just hop on, get some quick advice, and then come back whenever they want.
So just in general though, don't you think it would be maybe better for the concept of access, better for the people applying, if maybe there weren't so many kind of differing services, if it were maybe like the resources and services were pooled into one kind of access service? Don't you think they might find it a bit confusing?
Yeah, no, I definitely think there is an element of that. I do think it would be beneficial all the access groups were combined. I mean, why don't they combine with us? But you know, it's like, I think they all kind of tackle this from a different angle. And I think what's good about having lots of different access groups and projects is, you know, there's not one place where all the prospective applicants are. So it's not like we can have just one big access scheme and then just go to this one place and be like, hey, come with us. They're all kind of spread all over the place. So there is kind of benefit of having all these different projects and groups kind of doing their own outreach and seeing it works or not. So like some of them focus more on like social media and like targeting different groups. Others are more focused on school outreach. Obviously there's a lot of schools. You can't possibly cover all schools in one swoop kind of thing. So I don't know. I think there's like pluses and minuses. I think it's also just kind of how, you know, the cookie crumbled, because like we obviously had this idea on our own, and then like I think it'd be difficult for us to say go to one of these already existing groups and basically say, hey, let's like supplement your project, because there's a lot of things where it's like, you know, teams have their own cultures, like they have their own processes. It'd be very difficult for us to just like step in and kind of partner and then like collaborate in that sense. Like I think saying it sounds easy, but like actually integrating the services would be difficult, and it would also have made it much longer for us to actually like launch our thing. Whereas just doing it by ourselves, like we didn't have to deal with other people, and people are difficult, so we could just kind of do it on our own, do it ourselves.
So you obviously are an international student. Is that something that you as an access service focus on, like outreach to kind of international students who obviously are in less of a good place to apply to Oxford than home?
Yeah. So we actually don't focus much on international students. We don't do any outreach to international students. All of our outreach we do is to state schools in the UK. In particular, we target state schools that make a lot of applications to Oxford but have a very low success rate. That's where we think we have the most impact. None of our outreach is to internationals. Like we do have internationals that stumble on our service because we're really clear about not having filtering. Most of the other services, they do have filtering, and that's good, but like we focus on like quickness and on-demand nature, and like adding filtering would just slow that down. I would say that like part of my interest in science was stemming from my international background because like I'm from Texas. Shockingly, may come as a surprise, but there are not a huge network of people in Oxford and Texas. So like with my school, there wasn't really like a whole lot of help with Oxford admissions. So I remember like having to essentially Google like how to get into Oxford and like working off of like internet resources, which aren't super great. I mean, I got in, so like I guess they did do the job, but like that's also kind of who we target are the people that would be searching on the internet for like how to get into Oxford. In fact, our search engine optimization is explicitly geared towards people searching for how to get into Oxford. But yeah, so we don't necessarily target internationals, but we're happy if they stumble on our service. But all of our outreach is for state schools, and on our like in our mind, most of what we do is geared towards like state school students that would be coming from like a disadvantaged background and applying to Oxford.
So is that not something that you plan to expand into then? Because obviously, like you said, that they like international students, no matter where they come from, are generally at a disadvantage compared to UK students, just because they wouldn't have people from Oxford around them, or they're far less likely to.
Yeah.
Is it not something that you see as kind of a bigger end of access?
Yeah, I think yeah, absolutely. We want to help everyone that we possibly can. And I think longer term, we would like to provide more resources and help for international students and do more outreach. But it's a case of like just, resources and what we can do with the resources we have. And I think with all the access related issues, I think that it would not look very great if we kind of, focused entirely on international students, because some would make the suggestion that international students are coming from a slightly more advantaged position just because like paying international fees, etc. So like I think for the time being, with the limited resources we have, we find it much more useful to like kind of deal with like kind of access issues closer to home. And also like with our mentors, right? Like a lot of our mentors come from like state school backgrounds, like didn't have much help getting into Oxford in the first place. So their main kind of motivation and interest is helping people that are in similar situations to them. So like that's where most of the interest lies at the moment. But I do think longer term, once we expand more and get more capacity to do things, that we will target international students more. And also, of course, like there's just practical things, right? Like all of our mentors are in the UK. So with international students, of course, we're talking about different time zones. So that just makes it much harder logistically. But it's the only thing that we think about.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that you must be very busy with your various schemes. So I'll let you get on with your day. But I wish you all the best of luck with all your initiatives.